our course, our topic, our subject, and just to remind you of the most important points I shed light on last time. Whenever people say anything, whenever people write anything, we have to keep in mind the following. We do not write anything because we just like to write. When we write something, it is necessary to have something in our mind that we want to convey, to make the reader receive. In other words, it's a matter of creating your own identity, the identity that you like people to recognize about you, to say that that writer is so and so. In other words, what you like to appear could be seen through what you write. So you write in a way that will help others see you the way you like. It is a reflection to your reality. It's a reflection to what you wish to appear or how you wish to appear. Today we are going also to talk about an important issue. It is the issue of the situation and the text. If we want to write something, if we write something in a given time and place, the situation and the context are very much important to the way we think, to how we write. If we wish to write something, we have to keep in mind the situation, the context in which we do write our text. We cannot write anything, we cannot even say anything without having into consideration the context around you, the situation around you, the situation you are in. You couldn't ignore. So, what you write must consider the context, the situation in which you do write. But other people say that even the context and the situation you were in when you wrote that text could be seen through the text. In other words, the text you write can say something about the situation you were in when you wrote that text, and the situation itself, to a great extent, determines the way you write. In other words, the text, how the text appears, how the text is written, what does the text have. This indeed creates the dilemma of what? Of which exists first, the text or the situation. In other words, does the text determine the situation or the situation determine the text? Which exists first? Okay, so I can say that language has a magical property. In other words, when we speak or write, we craft what we have to say to fit the situation. So what we write or what we say must fit the situation. The situation could not be ignored. It is to be considered. When we speak or write, we craft what we have to say to fit the situation or context in which we are communicating. But at the same time, how we speak or write creates that very situation or context. It seems then that we fit our language to a situation or context that our knowledge or our language, in turn helped to create in the first place. In other words, it helped to create that situation in the first place. In other words, the situation where you write your text in determines to a great extent the nature of your text. And the text itself, once it is read, it can tell you something about the situation in which it is written. In which it is written. In other words, if I am in a room and I want to say something, how I say that thing and what I might say is determined to a great extent by the people who are with me in that room. If in that room I have just colleagues that I do not have a friendship with, let me say a formal relation, the situation of the room itself, the people in the room itself will determine the way I will use to speak. Now, if you know how I do speak, you can guess something about the situation. And at the same time, if the people in the room change, in other words, my colleague leave the room and other people who are very much close to me, say my brothers, then the situation of the room has changed. And as such, and as a result, the way I speak will not be the same as the way I have adopted when I spoke to some of my colleagues where a formal relation is between us. So, in the same room, when the people change, other people came with whom I have intimate relation, my brothers for example, the way I speak will differ. This is applicable to what we write. Whether the situation is very limited to a room, or even a university, or a city, all of these things are to be considered once I write something. I couldn't ignore the society, in other words. Now, suppose in the future somebody comes and reads the text I wrote. It is very much possible that I can imagine the situation where that text was written in through the text and the style of writing I adopted and I used. Even if you do not see me and you are behind the wall of the room, you can guess with whom I am through knowing the way I adopt to speak. If you feel that I'm speaking formally, you will know that I am in a formal meeting or with people with whom I do not have an intimate, let me say, relation. But if you hear me laughing, speaking randomly, without giving attention, without being conservative in my speech, you can guess that I'm with people with whom I can be more relaxed, with people who I do not think that they are going to criticize me. So, the situation and the context determine to a great extent the nature of the text. If the text itself is read in the future, you can imagine something about the situation and about the context where that text is written. So, the text itself can recreate the situation in which it was written. And the situation itself determines the text which is written. So, this is rather like the chicken and egg question. Which comes first? The egg or the chicken? Which comes first? The text or the context? The text can create the context, the situation. The situation determines to a great extent the nature of the text. But which exists first? Do I speak in that way because of the situation, or because of what I have written? You have to imagine the text, the context, or I mean the situation, how they were. So this is rather like chicken and egg question. Which comes first? The situation we are in, for example, a committee meeting. Do I speak in that way because I am in a committee meeting? Or because I'm speaking in that way, there must be a committee meeting. Okay? Or the language we use, our committee. We are in, okay. This is rather like the chicken and egg question, which comes first? The situation we are in, or the language we use. Okay? Is this a committee meeting? Is this a committee meeting because we are speaking and acting this way? Or are we speaking and acting this way because this is a committee meeting? In other words, does the committee meeting determine the way I do speak? Or because I do speak in that way, I have to say that there is a committee meeting? After all, if we didn't speak and act in certain ways, committees do not exist. But then, if institutions, committees, and committee meetings didn't already exist, speaking and acting this way would be nonsense. In other words, because we speak in that way, because we do talk about decisions, about making decisions, about developing a given institution, for example, the nature of the talk, make it a committee meeting. But why we do speak in this way? Because it is a committee meeting. Unless we have a committee meeting, we wouldn't speak in that way. But if we do not speak in that way, we couldn't say that we are in a committee meeting. We are in a committee meeting because we are acting in a way which makes us feel that we are members in a committee in order, for example, to develop a given company or to make a given decision. After all, okay. Discourses and social languages. Once we talk about social languages, I just would like to make it very clear that people even speak differently because of the classes to which they belong. And this is what we mean by social languages. We have a language or a dialect used by the upper class, we have a dialect used by the middle class, and we do have a dialect which is used by those who belong to the lower class. This is what we mean by social dialects or social languages. Even we might have different styles of speech because of what? Because of having different styles of occupations or of, let me say, level of education. As such, even if we talk about gender, being male or female, the way you speak could be determined to a great extent whether you are male or female. Whenever we speak or write, we always and simultaneously construct or build 6 things or 6 areas of reality. Whenever we speak or write, we always and simultaneously at the same time means construct or build 6 things or 6 areas of reality. These 6 areas of reality, these 6 things are very much important. Once we speak, we want to achieve that thing. We can talk about 6 things, 6 areas. First of them is the meaning and value of aspects of the material world. If we say something or if we write anything, the meaning and value of aspects of the material world. If I say, I enter a plane, you would understand that I'm not talking about something square, I'm talking about something plain, something which is not like a circle, it is, or a mountain, it is a plane. If I say I enter a square room, so I have creating a meaning of something material in our world. This means that I am in a room like this, which is like a square. I might say I enter a triangle room. So by this sentence I have created something about what? About the material world. So I'm not talking about abstract words. These abstract words can create in your mind, let me say, a picture, something materialistic, tangible in the world. So if you say, I have entered a square room, you can imagine through that sentence, which has only words, but you can, through that sentence, imagine something in the world, that you are in a square room. You are not in a room which looks like a circle or a triangle. So, through speaking something, you can imagine something about the outside world, about the real world, material world. If I say, I sit under the tree, you can imagine a tree and somebody is sitting under it. So by a sentence, I can create something in your mind about the world, the material world, the real world. But this is expressed by what we say or by what we write. Okay. Activities. Once we speak or write, we want to build something real, a kind of reality. Activities. We talk and act in one way, and we are engaged in formally opening a committee meeting. We talk and act in another way, and we are engaged in chit-chat before the official start of the meeting in another way. If I speak in a given way, say a formal way of speaking, this means that the meeting has started and I am in a meeting and the meeting has started. How I can know that the meeting has started? Simply because I'm speaking in a certain way. The way I do speak will be used as a spark, as a point that can tell us that the meeting has started. So, to a great extent, the way I do speak can tell you whether I'm in a meeting or I am just chatting, speaking informally with some of my friends after having, let me say, the meeting finished. Even if like I just have said, if somebody is behind the wall and listening to us, through the way we speak, he can know whether the meeting is in progress or not, whether we're still in the official meeting. But everybody of you knows that there are so many times when you are waiting, for example, your teacher or a dear friend who is in a class or in a meeting room, you can say that, oh, the meeting has finished, the meeting is over, simply because you will start hearing people speaking loudly and randomly. These are symbols of having a meeting finished, or that the meeting has finished, has stopped. So the way people do speak, the way the people do speak can inform the people who are waiting whether the meeting is still in progress or the meeting has completed. So, activities. We talk and act in one way, and we are engaged in informally opening a committee meeting. So, if we are in a meeting, committee meeting, we speak in that way, in that formal way. Suppose now the committee meeting is over. This happens many times. Then, immediately, quickly, I will start speaking to my friend, even whispering to him, something which is not allowed if the meeting is in progress. So, you can say something about the meeting, whether it is in progress or has completed, through the way we do speak. So, we talk and act in one way, and we are engaged in formally opening a committee meeting. But We talk and act. In other words, we change the way we talk we change the way we act in another way, and we are engaged in chit-chat before the official start of the meeting. If there's a meeting, but it hasn't yet started, people will speak loudly, will speak randomly. I might move from here to there. I might have a cup of tea. I might give you, for example, my telephone, whatever. All of these are hints. All of these are indicators to the fact that the meeting hasn't yet started. So I act and talk in a given way if the meeting is not there. I will act and talk in another way if the meeting has started. And this is the crucial point of what I have just said. Identities and relationships. Before even talking about this, I just would like to make it very clear that when we speak, that when we write, I mean, if you want to analyze a discourse, all of these factors, all of these points are to be considered, to be kept in mind, to be considered. If I want to write, if I want to speak, my own identity is very much important. And what I mean by my own identity is how I like people to perceive me, how I like people to see me. But before I do forget, what I say is very much important for the exam, but the points written in here, and that will be given to you, of course, in the data show are very much important. They are very much important, and the exam will depend on what I write in the data show and what I say. Keep this in mind, please. Again, my own identity, the identity that I like to show to people, how I like people to see me, determines to a great extent the way I do write, the way I do speak. So, identities and relationships. I talk and act in one way, one moment, and I'm speaking and acting as chair of the committee. The next moment, I speak and talk in a different way, and I'm speaking and acting as one peer, colleague speaking to another. What I mean by this point is the following. Suppose now I'm in a committee meeting, and I'm the chairperson of that committee. I will speak with my colleagues in a very formal way. Seriously. No time to laugh. No time to talk even about something personal. As a chairperson, I have to adopt a given style of speech. In general, formal style. Even how I look will be very much also important to convey the message I want to you, to convey the identity I want you to think that I am. That I am formal, I am a strong chairperson, I am serious, I have no time to play. So, the way I adopt to speak, the way I adopt to write, reflect these facts. The fact that I like my identity as a chairperson or the chairperson of the department to be crystallized, to appear. Now, suppose I have finished the meeting. Suppose I have finished the meeting. I will do what? I will quickly try to start talking to my colleagues in another way, which is indeed, in general, informal. It is not formal. But even when I adopt the informal way of speaking to my colleagues, after having the exam up or finished, the meeting finished, I have in mind something to convey, as if I want to tell my friends that, or my colleagues, that I am also your friend. I am also friendly. I am also kind. I am also humble. I am one of you. But this could not exist, couldn't happen, but when I do have the meeting finished, when the meeting is over. Because at that time, I do not want to convey to my colleagues the same message. I do not want them to see my to see my identity as a shared person. I want them to see my identity as one of them, as a humble person, as a friendly person who can separate between things, between formality and informality. Informal committee, formal meeting, I am the shared person. I am the strong shared person who can manage and who can lead you. But at the same time, after the meeting, in the corridor, for example, I would talk to my colleagues in a very friendly way, also to convey a message that I am one of you, I am humble, I am not proud of myself. So, this is what I mean, identities and relationships. How I like to appear, and what kind of relationship I like to have with my friends. In the meeting and after the meeting. In the meeting, formal relation. After the meeting, no, I am one of you. I am your colleague. But in the meeting, no, I'm not your colleague, but I am your shared person. I am the chairman of the department that you have to listen to. So this is what we mean by identities and relationships. I talk and act in one way, one moment. And I'm speaking and acting as chair of the committee. The next moment I speak and talk in a different way, and I am speaking and acting as one peer, colleague, speaking to another. This is what I think is important for this lecture, and I wish we can continue our talk, our speech about, let me say, discourse in the following lecture. Thank you so much.
نجيبها بس ممكن